In February, the U.S. Court of Appeals for the Fifth Circuit ruled that a federal law meant to stop people under a domestic violence restraining order from buying a gun was unconstitutional. Now, the Supreme Court is expected to hear this case, and ahead of that, nonprofits across the country have filed an amicus brief to let the justices know where they stand in that case. One of those organizations is the Texas Advocacy Project, and joining us this afternoon is CEO Heather Valino. Thank you so much for being here as we break all of this down today.
Thank you for having me.
So first, let's get started. At really the core of this amicus brief is to ensure the safety and the protection of domestic violence survivors. What exactly are you all calling for in this amicus brief?
Really, what we'd like is for the Supreme Court to look at the Fifth Circuit's decision on Rahimi and to understand or to see what we see, which is that we do believe that there are laws that were analogous to what's happening today. Back in 1791, which is really what the test that they're comparing it to. So what we really do want them to understand, though, is how dangerous it is for a survivor of domestic violence when the person that has injured and harmed them has a gun in their possession. And that's why that law that said if there was a protective order against you, you were not to possess a firearm. It's 500 times more likely that it will be lethal if in a home with domestic violence there are also guns.
Okay, and let's just give our audience some context on this. You said that this ruling could really have life-threatening implications. Give us a breakdown of this case and really how we got to this point and why you all decided to file the amicus brief.
Okay, so from my understanding is that this gentleman, Rahimi, he had a protective order filed against him, and that was granted by the court. When a protective order is granted by the court, there must be evidence. They must prove that domestic violence has occurred, and a judge must rule on it. So a judge ruled on this, and part of that protective order said he is not to possess guns. During that time of the protective order, which is a finite amount of time typically, right? A year, 2 years, he wasn't supposed to have them. Well, he did, and there were multiple incidences where he shot in front of a Whataburger has gone off, he shot at a police officer, multiple incidences of using a gun that he should not have had in his possession in the first place. So fast forward, he appeals the process, the Fifth Circuit agrees that he should not have the gun, and then the Bruin case comes in. And now they must compare it to those rules, tested against those rules. And at that point, they said there weren't any laws currently that were analogous to the laws of 1791. And so they overturned their own ruling and saying he could have the guns.
Okay.
So now we've got to go to the Supreme Court and really understand better what it is that we're supposed to be comparing these things against. And we really hope that the justices see that we believe that there are analogous laws.
Okay, and then getting to where we are now, you brought us up to speed from this point. How do you hope that the amicus brief that you all filed will really increase access to justice and safety for people in domestic violence situations? And this is a coalition. It's not just you, it's a coalition of nonprofits across the country who have filed this.
I mean, what sets us apart is we are here in Texas, and that Fifth Circuit decision impacted us immediately. People in Texas that are survivors of domestic violence may not be as safe as people in other states with this ruling. So we got together with other civil legal service providers and said, what can we do? What difference can we make? How can we better support survivors? So this amicus brief is part of it, having the Supreme Court give us better direction on the Bruin case and how to apply that is extremely important, but really there's also secondary reasons, right? You're having me here today on the news to talk about the danger of domestic violence and how lethal it can be. So our hope is that survivors know that we are still here fighting for them. Even if laws change and morph a little bit, there will be civil legal protections to them. We will be able to get protective orders still. We will be able to help them to get long-term safety We are here. There's a coalition of us here standing up for them, bringing their voices to the Supreme Court, and also boots on the ground to help them with the very civil legal remedies they need to have long-term safety.
Okay, and so you filed this brief, and we know that things don't always move quickly through the courts. Do we have a sense of a timeline on what's next and how quickly this could move?
Well, the cert was granted, which means that the court would listen to this case, and then we just filed this brief, which is on the merit of the case. So they are definitely going to hear it. It will probably happen in late fall to early winter. We have not gotten the definitive date yet, but they're going to make a decision. They're going to look at all this new evidence, and we're not the only people that have filed an amicus. They're going to look at all of it, and then they'll make a ruling based on the research and the information they have available.
Okay, and to be clear though, so it's not, is it impacting your work that you're currently doing, or you want to make the message clear that you're still here for domestic violence?
Both.
Okay.
Yes, we are still here for domestic violence survivors, and yes, there are civil legal remedies that are available. This ruling, luckily, the state of Texas still has laws that say you may not possess a gun if there's a protective order against you. So we're somewhat safe there right now, currently. Nothing has currently changed in that manner. But we know that once these rulings start occurring, then they're going to test the margins on laws that we have in place at the state level too.
Okay.
So that's why it's important to be heard now.
All right, Heather Bellina, thank you so much as always for being with us. I know you'll be tracking this and we'll be following up with you.
Yes.
Thanks for being with us.
Thank you.